And I'll ask Arun back to the stage to welcome our panelists, some of whom have changed from the program, so I won't try to get the names right now because I don't have them actually in front of me. But what I would say is that one of the panelists, Fiorenza, you heard her, she's from the Cannes Lions Festival yesterday. She and I had the privilege of working with her a few years ago on the jury, and what we found, one, whether it was presented as an advertising campaign or some other program, had some consistencies. And Michael touched on them, I think, very eloquently. First, they always addressed a human truth. They help the brand or the company or the product understand the expectations of community around it, culture around it, something that Dave Siné talked about yesterday. And then they help meet those expectations in a credible, authentic way. How it was executed sometimes was widely variable, but the most creative campaigns were the ones that strung those together very elegantly. Creativity in PR has been something that we struggled with. Partly it's an identity problem. I think sometimes our work is much better than we give it credit for, and sometimes it's not executed as well as perhaps other disciplines. So I think it's another big challenge for us to tackle, and thank you, Arun, for convening this panel to do so. Welcome, Arun Sudhaman, back to the stage.
Thank you. Thank you, David. I think we are going to need your mic, so someone will be coming to remove that from you. And transfer it to our panelists. If I can invite our panelists up onto stage, please. Blair Metcalfe from Ogilvy PR London. Welcome, Blair. Fiorenza Plinio from Cannes Lions. Welcome. Silvia Negri Firman from Negri Firman. Welcome. And Claire Bridges could not be with us today, unfortunately. It's a real shame because she was actually the driving force behind this session. But we're very lucky that we have Nicola Rovetta joining us from Golin. Welcome, Nicola. So as David mentioned, creativity is one of those areas and issues that has just really risen to the forefront when we talk about the challenges that define the PR industry. For me personally, as a journalist that has covered this industry for far too long, I sometimes think, but over a decade, the change in the way that creativity is perceived in the PR industry has been nothing short of dramatic. I would say as recently as 3 or 4 years ago, creativity was not something that was really discussed regularly amongst PR agency types. When I covered the advertising industry, for example, it was in discussion every single day. And that has really changed over the last 2 to 3 years. I mean, the impact of Cannes Lions obviously has been a big one. But I think also increasingly what PR firms have found is that if they are going to get serious about providing these integrated ideas, about accessing marketing budgets, they have to bring the same level of creativity that, for example, advertising or digital agencies are comfortable with. So to discuss that, we're very lucky to be joined by our panelists today. And I thought as a useful backdrop for this conversation, we could use some of the research that the Holmes Report has done in collaboration with Claire from Now Go Create, and indeed with our friends from Hill & Knowlton Strategies. We launched this study, the Creativity in PR Report, 3 years ago, really just to chart this whole the trend that I just observed in terms of how creativity was becoming a currency within the PR industry. We ask a lot of questions around creativity. We get around 700 responses every year. And what I've done is I've just pulled out a few of the slides, and we can discuss them with the panelists. So if we start with this one here, we ask respondents whether they feel that their business is investing adequately in creativity. And I always find this response a little bit worrying. And 50% say no. And that's actually better than last year, or in fact the year before, when I think it was more than 60% said no. So we are making progress, but it still seems like it's a little bit of a concern. In no particular order, Blair, if I could start with you, maybe get your response to that kind of a finding and how you feel when you see that.
I mean, from my perspective, it's probably that point you raised at the very beginning there about the conversation about creativity wasn't happening 5, 7, 10 years ago, particularly in the PR industry, and now it's coming to the forefront. I think with that conversation that's now in everybody's minds, there's also a bit of trepidation about understanding exactly what that means, bringing it to the fore, and perhaps quite a lack of confidence, probably unwarranted lack of confidence in that fact. Creativity is imbued within everything we do, and I very truly believe, and I think that this is the belief of a lot of people within the industry, that we are immensely creative irrespective of what level, what position, or what activity we're doing within PR. It's an essential part of what we do. And when you look at the advertising industry, it's a separate entity that sits away from the account management side, away from the financial guys, but in the kind of the natural nature that we have had in PR for the last few years, we've been everything. People who've been working in this industry have done everything, and creativity has been at the very centre. So I think it's probably just a disproportionate representation of people's confidence more than their actual investment that they take place, and the actual fact that we do on a daily basis invest in creativity. As you'll see, I think we'll get onto it later in some of the other slides, but what people consider their investment in creativity is also slightly interesting as well.
I think that's really interesting because, as you mentioned, it does come down a little bit to what is an investment in creativity. Fiorenza, interesting to hear your perspective as someone who is kind of on a day-to-day basis. You're seeing agencies investing in creativity from all disciplines.
And I think at Alliance, we do provide a platform for creativity. We do have a training academy for young creative people that come to Cannes and want to learn how to be more creative. But also, we do work in partnership with ICCO and Ogilvy PR to run the Young Lions PR Lions. So this is a competition made and done to kind of fuel creativity and to help the youngest PR crowd to be more creative and to celebrate also creativity in PR. So that's something that we're really working on with the PR industry at the moment.
Sure. And I mean, this kind of a finding, does it surprise you when you see that about PR agencies?
Yeah, it's kind of surprising because obviously at Alliance, we do receive, this year we had 2,000 entries and most of them were really, really creative from PR agency. More than 50% of the entries were actually from PR firms. So there is creativity out there and PR firms do know how to be creative. So these stats, they're quite surprising, I have to say. It's not really what I was expecting from a survey like that.
Okay, interesting. Silvia, your take on this finding. Do you feel that the industry is investing enough?
I think yes and no. I think that it depends on industries we work for or we are specialized in. It depends on countries, and I'm sad to say that Italy is very much behind in this game, and I think Nicola probably will agree with me. And also it depends on what do you mean by investing in creativity, because if you mean investing money, probably yes, we are still all behind, or we don't do, or maybe it's true that it's never enough, especially right now. If you mean investing efforts, time, training, brainstorming, and ideas, I don't know, it's not true for us, but it's true that in Italy, most of PR agencies, even big network, are very old mind, and they don't invest enough in creativity.
Nicola, your take. I don't know if you want to continue the discussion of Italy's creativity in the Italian PR firms, or maybe take a more global view.
Yes, maybe I won't speak exactly of the Italian situation, because my personal situation in Italy is that I am the creative director for my company. So if so if my company is going to invest more in creativity, it's going to invest more in me. So I will be happy with that. But again, I want to speak about the general point. I would like to make a difference, because it's something that I always tend on insisting in, which is, let's define creativity, because it's a definition that goes from home decor to Einstein. And in terms of communication, I think that also there is a distinction to make inside the PR agencies, because you can hire, for example, a good PR account who is strategic and he is a creative person with a creative attitude. Then it comes to making creativity. And to be honest, creatives in advertising agencies or maybe digital agencies and so on are really good in also making the creativity happen. And this is something that maybe the PR industry must invest more in. I mean, we do, but what I feel is that PR agencies tend to buy this kind of creativity at executional level and not so much at a strategic level. So maybe there are a lot of creatives, people in the management with high creative attitude, people in the lower, the troops with creativity skills. But maybe what we have to borrow or to steal from advertising world is the strategic creativity part, which is what makes it happen. Because I can have a big idea. A lot of good campaigns in the world, both advertising or PR, have been thought not by creatives, but by creative people. Everybody can have fortunately, everybody can have a big idea, but deploy it in a creative way with the quality is a job. And creativity as a job is something that maybe is not so diffused in the PR agencies.
Okay, interesting responses. If I move on to the next slide I wanted to show you, and I know that this is a topic that often gets a lot of interest, creative leadership within PR firms. I think for a number of years now, the PR agency industry has really looked to the advertising world when it comes to how they staff and resource creativity. And it's no big surprise, because I think the advertising agencies are kind of held up as a benchmark in terms of how creativity is resourced. So we ask a question about whether firms have a creative director, and that's grown. I mean, it's really increased over the last 3 years to 42% now, from I think something like 30% 3 years ago. But the findings also show that, more than half don't. So I'll put it to the panel. Do we really need creative directors, or are they just, I don't know, a kind of role that has been imported from Adland and is really not necessary within PR agencies? Blair, I'll start with you.
Okay, well, frankly, I think from a PR land perspective, if we're not making up a fad for everyone to follow, we're jumping onto one. And the emergence of the the creative director as a concept within PR is fairly new, because we've been worried about creative directing, we've been worried about the concept of creative in a fairly new time frame. So over the last few years, we've seen creative directors come to the fore, really. And the ways they're being deployed were kind of covered a little bit this morning already. There's intelligent deployment of creative directors within PR firms, dealing with what we just discussed then, perhaps helping guide the strategy, as well as helping guide the effective rollout of certain campaigns. And then there's the ineffective model. And from my perspective, being able to see this group within an advertising business as well, the ineffective model is to look at Adland and go, we want some of that, let's get it in. And we do this quite often in lots of other ways as well. I mean, lots of smaller PR firms and lots of bigger PR firms will look and go, we want some social, get it in. And it was interesting on a slide we saw previously related to social that people think they're going to need to make a big investment in social, but not a big investment in paid media. Then the two, you can't separate the two there. So why do we think they are? Well, that's because we don't have an understanding of what they are. And with creative directors and their role, there's still a lack of understanding about what we can do with them. It's completely wrong to look to the ad world and go, this works for advertising guys. It's completely wrong to go, we need creative duos like they have in the advertising world, and go, creative duos become the bastions of creativity within an agency, irrespective of its size, and people should then turn to them. What's right is to use the creative minds, the creative thinking, and help imbue that creativity within everybody. Otherwise, you'll find that creative directors will become a succubus on the agency, and in fact, vapidly suck away the creative thinking that pre-existed, and become these people that suddenly get turned to when there's a problem that needs solving, which would be an awful way of doing it. So I think the right way is to, and we heard it again this morning, integrate this new kind of talent into an agency through both educating them about what an agency is and then exploring how you can turn their thinking, their ways, and help people empower and understand that they were already creative in their own rights with an agency. Make them be leaders of creativity, but not the bastion of creativity.
I mean, Fiorenza, you're familiar with, obviously, with ad agencies where big creative departments, big ECDs, big egos.
Yes, lots of them.
But is there, I mean, the good thing about that approach, of course, is that you formalize creativity within the agency. You give it a role, you give it titles, you give it respect. It becomes part of the culture.
Well, I kind of agree with Blair on the point where he said that, you need to nurture creative talent within your agency. So you don't need necessarily to take that from, okay, I want a creative director and, exactly the same type of director you would have in advertising agencies, but it might not work. It might not work the same way because a creative director, like art director, copywriter in agency, they're kind of different type of people, than PR people. So sometimes you're thinking, I want to apply the model to my agency, my PR agency, but it wouldn't work. Perhaps, nurture the talent that you have in your agency, and because creativity, as Nicola said before, comes from everywhere. Okay, so you will have creative talents in your agency already. Maybe you don't know that you do. And it's important to kind of look at your agency first before going fishing for, other. And also another thing about creative director in PR agency, we do see at Alliance more and more PR entries that are, having the credits, creative directors, copywriter, art director. So this is happening already, and it's good that it's a mix of people, But I say to PR agency, look at the talent you have in your agency and see what you can do already with these people and train them and do workshops to nurture that talent that you already have.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely seeing more creative directors in PR firms. What we're not seeing is that they're all doing the same thing sometimes,
Absolutely.
Which is interesting. Silvia, do you feel like creative leadership is required within PR firms?
Sorry?
Do you feel like creative leadership is required within PR firms?
Yes, but I think it's very specific creative skills. So it's a different thing from a traditional creative figure. And as Blair said before, this is very new in the PR industry, so it's almost impossible to find 100% skilled professional PR creative directors. I think everything is very subjective. We've been hearing this morning earlier talking about whether to recruit or not people with a non-PR background. I think I did it and I keep on doing it. Sometimes it's successful, sometimes not. The problem is that when the requirements are so new, it's about talent. And so sometimes happened to me that I found people that was in advertising agencies or in completely different world that did understand by nature our world better than people that was in the PR industry since ever. What is for sure my daily experience is that I can't find the creative PR spirit in, at least in the world that I know, in people that is doing PR since many, many years, because they probably have been trained in thinking in a different way. Sometimes it's easier to find creative ideas in the younger people or in people that comes from outside, but definitely being creative in PR is different than being creative in a creative agency. So skills are completely different.
Yeah, so it's less about the labels and more about the actual talent.
Yeah, and also about the understanding of our job and our mission. Sure. I think, yes, it's true, we need to launch products and ideas and reach out to the final consumer, and campaigns like the one we've seen this morning are amazing. But, for example, in my work, I face every day the need to be creatively thinking in order to be doing PR for creatives, for example, fashion designers, interior designers, architects. That's a very specific job. So I think our job is about challenging every day ourselves, being open to learning new ways and new ideas. Right.
Nicola, you are a creative director?
Yeah, I am.
Ah, good. Would you like to defend your role?
Yeah, I don't want to defend my role. I want to try to tell you what I think is going to be not my, but the role of the creative directors. And let me take a step further, not only in PR agencies or advertising agencies, but in the new model agencies that maybe everybody should tend to be in the future. Because I began working in advertising. Then I went to digital for a long time. Then I was again in an advertising agency. Then now I am in PR. So I can tell that what we have to change is the way that creatives think. For example, you take a creative in advertising agencies. Let's say, his thinking starts by the media. He's going to say, is it a billboard? Is it an activation? Is it a commercial? If I don't know what it is, I can begin thinking. This is advertising shape of really, common way of thinking. You go in digital, and people is going to say, what is the device we are going to build? What is the tool that we are going to build? And then they start. And I've been all through these situations, and obviously the solution, we know it very well, is that from time to time, it's always about people and the needs of the company or of the brand and the needs of the people. And this is very simple. You have to build something that is relevant for the person at the end of the chain. So if you think this way, you will be a good creative director in a PR agencies, but also in a new world advertising agency, because if you go in the advertising agencies, they all cry because we are no more sure about, we are going to make campaigns, commercials, we don't know what our job really is now. Their job is beginning to be similar to our job because it's less paid and more mixed media. So I think that the new way of, it's what, when I teach this to the students, because I hope to have a new people coming into the industry with a clear idea of that, I teach them about not the big idea, but the limitless idea, which is an idea which is a human idea at the end, and it's something that you can extend vertically or horizontally without limits, and not just big, for example, like, I don't know, there are good campaigns that are beautiful, but, for example, taste the rainbow. This is a good campaign for a colored snack, but it's not, it was a big idea because it lasted so many years, but it's not so profound as other big ideas are. So maybe this is not limitless. It's a big idea. You can work on it for years, but it's not really building on the relationship, for example. It's not going to become relevant if you don't add, for example, fun to it. So it's more about human ideas that are going to be irrespective, developed on different areas.
So we need creative leadership, but not necessarily the same kind of creative leadership that you would find at an ad agency or a digital agency. If we take that question one step further, I'd like to put this to the panel. Do you feel that PR firms need to have, for example, a specific creative department? Because the risk otherwise is we end up in a situation which has persisted, where creativity is everyone's job, and sometimes it isn't prioritized because of that.
So from my perspective, I think that we are, to some respect, still finding our way with this, but the creative department is what seems to be the emerging direction at the moment. We have taken an approach to bringing in outside talent, as well as nurturing people from within the business who had a natural flair. The opening session, we spoke about sparks in their eyes. They had the right kind of thinking, they lent themselves towards that direction, so therefore they became part of the creative department role, which is very closely aligned with strategic development as well, so with strategy and planning. And that does feel like the correct fit. Again, though, it's not a dictative position. It's one that's helping imbue ideation within the entire business. Yes, it does sit at the capacity of collecting people together. When there is action that needs to be done, when there's a creative that needs to be developed, when there's a route or 5 or 6 routes to solving a problem that need to be done. And it seems to work very well in that sense, for us at the moment at least.
Yes, I think what we've seen in the recent years also, talking with PR agencies in Cannes and also advertising agencies, media agencies, digital agencies, creative departments are needed. So people that focus just and only on creativity, on delivering creative products. So there is a need for that, because if you become part of everyone's job, I think you lose that focus a little bit, okay? So you need to kind of, and also something to add to the previous point we just talked about. What I've seen in also advertising agencies hiring PR professionals. That's happening more and more as well.
Exactly to that point. We've been saying over the last couple of days, well, yesterday and today, that we're taking the fight to the ad guys, or we're taking the fight to these different arenas.
We've won, apparently. We've won.
We've won, exactly. We've won. We're hiring from outside of the arena. We're not going to be hiring from other PR agencies now. I mean, a lot of people out there made a joke yesterday. A lot of people in the PR industry are going to be disappointed to hear they're not going to be able to change career and move into that. But there's a good thing for them because they're going to the ad guys, exactly as you said. So I don't think that we're becoming the masters of the universe just ourselves, because right on the other side of the fence, they're also trying to become the masters of the universe by acquiring our talent, taking on our ways of working. And when you take it straight into the world of the Cannes Lions, we do love a good moan about the fact that we can't win and it's full of advertising guys up there winning. But as Michael said earlier, it really doesn't bloody matter.
It doesn't matter where the ideas come from. Yeah. Absolutely doesn't.
Absolutely. There's zero point in worrying about where they come from if they're really great, insight-led human stories that really work. The thing is, we need to recognize that as much as we can have the ad guys winning in the PR categories, we should be winning in the other bloody categories as well.
And we do, actually. You guys do, because this year, we recorded this year, it's a big, massive change in Cannes. We actually had PR firms winning in categories like digital, mobile, media, so direct marketing, all of them. So that's great. That's a great shift.
Yeah, it certainly makes sense. Silvia, do you feel like for an agency of your size and in the market in which you're operating, you can justify, for example, a devoted creative department?
We are still finding our way as well on this direction, and we try different assets and different experiments. I think yes, but I think that what we're working on now is a dedicated creative team that works also together to the rest of the team. I think that in my experience and in my size agency, we need to apply creativity from to everything we do, from the little daily activities to bigger and projects and great ideas, which means that we need someone dedicated to that, and I'm also partially dedicated to that, but we also need to share this and to put on the table and brainstorm with every element of the agency. I want them to wake up and to understand the new world and to start thinking in everything they do. I think creativity is needed in PR, even in the way you approach your journalist, your media, and the way you decide to announce a news or not, or the story angle that you need to find, and then have to arrive to major projects and campaigns. I think this is an exercise and a culture that is missing in most of the PR professionals. So adding creative elements and assigning them big jobs, but open the possibility to brilliant ideas and talents to come out with their ideas and become the protagonists of a big project, that's also a big opportunity.
Sure, so just in general, a more creative culture.
Yeah, so what we're really working now is a creative department with a think tank regularly meeting with a larger team.
Okay. Nicola, you of course work for an agency that has for the last 3 years now, I think, had the G4 model in place, where you do have creatives as one of those sort of verticals, I guess. How has that worked for you? I don't expect you to criticize it too much, but I'd be interested to hear your views.
We embraced the G4 model, so we liked it. What Golin did, as some of you may know, is that they actually hired or entitled people to have the creative word on their job description. But there is not, the model is not have a specific creative department, but it is to have creative people in mixed teams. So we call them not departments but communities, because creatives can gather together in terms of development, maybe brainstorming, etc., sharing experience. But the day-to-day work is in a mixed model. You know that the G4 has this icon, which is in which disciplines are overlapping one on the other. So this should be maybe the model. You must have creative people that can act as a team if needed, but is more effective if you have them dispersed in work teams for the clients. So it's this is what the model wants to.
Just coming back to your final point then, because probably useful to discuss clients at some point. What are they looking for in terms of the creativity and I guess the creative output that PR firms are actually delivering today?
I think the creative opportunity for us is the upsell in a big way. And the fact that we're talking about creativity, and it's one of the buzzword bingo game, if anyone's playing in the audience, that we've heard so many times over the summit the last couple of days, that in fact, they are looking for creative directors within agencies they want to work with. They're looking for that because they feel also they need to have creative from their agency, and it makes sense to them to see the word and then the people who imbue that within an agency they work with. But equally, it presents us where we're considering where we get new revenues from, where we're considering how to find new money, is that if we're not proactively taking ideas that sit outside of the retained relationships we have, or that sit outside of the projects we may get, and going in and saying, here's a new creative perspective on this challenge that we know you have, and just basically pitching in cold with things, then I think we're making a mistake. And I think creativity and creative directors and having a group of individuals who are thinking slightly away from the traditional way that we think as to what new can we present, what new can we do, gives us a hell of a lot of opportunity. And we should really be embracing that. And I think clients are, well, they are, for the ones that we speak to at least, that I have personal contact with, like us taking new things to them, that is away from the traditional, buy, serve model that they've had for years.
Fiorenza, there's a lot of CMOs that can, obviously, the biggest
yes.
spenders in the world. What are they looking to buy in terms of creative?
I think clients coming to Cannes, and there is lots of them, as you say, it's about a $500 billion industry of clients coming to Cannes. So, yes, they actually looking for, they want fresh ideas. They want campaigns. They want to work with agencies that can produce campaigns that look at the products in a new, fresh way, and use technology, use data more and more. Okay, so it's something that agencies are doing more and more for clients, and also campaigns that do actually help brands to connect with the audience in a sort of emotional way, because we see more and more winning campaigns in Cannes that do use emotional connection to connect, like a Girls or the Proud Whopper, campaigns, for Burger King, McDonald's, big brands, big clients that don't want to stroke that emotional chord. And also campaigns that do use innovation, all type of innovation, but mainly data and technology, I would say, more and more.
Silvia, maybe tell us a little bit about what Italian clients are looking for in terms of creativity.
I work for many international clients as well, but very specific because we are big in fashion and design, as I said before. So slightly different from bigger major companies like you work with. My experience is that clients are confused. They don't know exactly what they can expect from us. They are still confused about roles of creative agency, PR agency, advertising agencies. They just want results. We have a very funny, as you know, we are part of a Sermo network, and we meet every year to discuss our experiences and so on. And I think I've been telling my colleagues several times that one of the funny experience of this new creative era is that I won many pitches, mainly with international clients, by being the most creative among the PR agencies in the pitch. And then they never asked me to put in place those ideas. They only wanted press office and very simple, basic things. So my personal belief is that they still don't know that they need creativity from us, and we try, and we work hard to make them understand this, and we come out every day with a creative idea, and we are very proactive from this point of view, because we feel the need of this in order to implement our results, to empower our work, and to empower the visibility of our clients. So it's an educational approach with the clients as well with the team.
Nicola, do you think that clients need educating?
Yeah, I will answer later to this. No, what I think is that I can answer also with the words of my colleague Charlie Coney, who is the EMEA director for Golin. He used to say that PR agencies are the fast food of creativity, maybe because he works also for McDonald's, I think. But he said that timing for delivering creativity for the PR agencies is fast. It's very fast. While working in advertising, I saw people maybe discussing about a single word for 1 hour. In PR agencies, this happen. It's not so keen to happen. So what's the point is about making the clients understand that they are buying creativity and this is a product. So the problem is the one that you maybe were speaking about before. If you sell people's time, the client would buy that irrespective of what the person is delivering. So is it creativity? Is it results? Is it media space? I don't mind. I want results. So it's difficult to say, no, let's stop and think about the, let's say, creative quality of this idea, of the delivery of this idea, because they are not really seeing that they are buying that. So maybe they need education about the product that they are buying. When they are buying creativity, there must be some, alert and say, yeah. Because, for example, one client was discussing with me in my presence with the account person about a budget, and they were saying, I don't understand because why we have a creativity fee on top, and also a creativity part for this deliverable, and for this, and for this, and for this. And I said, look at me. The fact that I am here in this meeting is creativity. You are paying for creativity. There are different ways to make the client understand that they are really buying creativity. If you buy, for example, the time of a creative person, this is creativity. Also, while making supervising work or just delivering the things, but it's the point, especially for PR companies, that have not that really visible, creative departments, is to make the clients understand that they are actually buying creativity.
I think that to Silvia's point, which is an interesting one in terms of when you're pitching the client for winning the business as well, is the impression is that they're buying us for the sex, but they're really just keeping us for the housework. And I think we've got to get to the point where we are being bought for sex, and then we're able to keep going at it. And I think that's the measure and mark. And I think we're not doing ourselves too many favours. And it's happened here yesterday a little bit. And it's difficult because there's a bit of a dichotomy of saying, let's get towards the great integrated model, but also let's recognise that we're PR and we like PR-led things because it's in our best interest. If we keep looking at lots of case studies of great work, and it is ad-led with PR bolt-on, which happens quite often, and we go, this is a great example of creativity. And our clients will be at a seminar like this even, and they'll see that too. They'll keep thinking that ad-land is more creative than we are. And so they won't keep us for the sex. They'll keep us for that housework still because they know that we're good at delivering. We need to start celebrating and finding out our own creativity quite a lot more and showing that to clients, potential clients, making it part of an industry summit and an industry place where we are. Because it all too often happens that we spot good things and we really love them, but we're not very good at spotting good things in our own industry very well.
Well, some strong views. We have a couple of minutes, I think, for questions before we break for coffee. If we have any from the floor? No.
We're shocked about the sex.
Oh, yes. No?
Let's make
You mean?
from ourselves.
Thank you. I think the debate for creativity is really very interesting. And the argument about PR and advertising comes from who a lot of time we think the advertising people should lead. And in my own opinion, I think things are changing. There's no reason why PR cannot lead. And really what the client is looking for is a creative solution. Whether it's advertising, whether it's digital, whether it's PR, whether it's direct marketing, the client is just looking for a creative solution to his problem. And the minute we take ourselves out of that creativity, we've taken ourselves out of the scheme of things. Now, there is a lot of reason why our budgets are decreasing. The fact that there's a lot of vendoring going on in our business. When we talk about event management, for instance, it's some kind of event vendoring. So, but if we are not at the center piece of when it's created, then we can only get the dregs of the budget. And in our session yesterday, we talked about the fact that in parts of Africa, somebody sends you a brief and says, take $3,000 and work over the next 3 months. And you say, what can I do with that? Because I wasn't there when the creative solution was being designed. So back to the question, what do we do with creativity? I think that PR agencies should have creative departments. It must be somebody's responsibility. It cannot be everybody's responsibility. But in solving that, we cannot think in terms of billboards, TV ads, whatever. Maybe the problem we have is the nomenclature we have given it, creative. Perhaps if we called it content, perhaps if we called it ideas generation, something that drives a lot of unpaid media that perhaps can lead the campaign and others can latch onto. So I support that we should have creative departments in PR agencies. Thank you.
Okay. Excellent. Well, I think that brings us to the coffee break. So if you could please join me in thanking our wonderful panelists.